bot lane, but would not put it against Yagao to be able to pick that one up for himself if he wanted to. So, and the Kindred being taken away from Shun as well. We kind of see Kindred kind of become the more Shun ban against him rather than the Nidalee. The Nidalee was kind of previously the thing that we would have seen against him, but definitely hasn't been performing as of late. I think the Nidalee has definitely lost a little bit of favor in that kind of setup. But the Aphelios locked in here for BLG, and they will, I was going to say, look to try and lock in their jungler as well. So it looks like we're going to get the very bog standard of the first 3 picks being never mind.
Yes.
I was just going to say, they got the Jax coming in here now. So Invincible, he's in a position there where he kind of is going to get banned out because they have to lock in the Lucian Nami together. Otherwise, they lose that combination.
Yeah, Bin's definitely thinking NIP, thank you for banning for a second, as he is just going to blind that Jax as Invincible. I mean, out of his entire champion pool, maybe something like the Kennen, which isn't as effective for him, is going to be a very big question mark in that top lane. But however, it is definitely an ego pick as the Jax gets locked in. Lucian Nami for the side of NIP. I haven't found too much success or seen too much success. Why am I failing to say this word? Up in the current patch where it is patch 13.4 into something like the Aphelios, which does have the extra range. I mean, with the BT and the Immortal Shield Bow and also Overheal combo, it's just way too impossible to shred through something that is 700 shielding when it does come to a later stage in the game.
Yeah, it does feel like you kind of wait to see how the kind of laning, as you say, laning phase kind of go. With the Aphelios, you tend to feel like they're happy to let things go for a while. We are going to see the Lulu, possibly even the Karma maybe banned away or something like that.
Thresh sometimes nowadays, actually.
True.
Thresh
it's
and
the old
Aphelios.
school. Thresh Aphelios was the old school combination. Used to have that back when Jinx was in the meta. Used to have a lot of Thresh kind of priority on both sides because it covers a lot of the weaknesses that Aphelios kind of has, especially with that Lantern.
I think NIP needs to look to ban out something like the Thresh here, as it is probably second best synergy alongside the Aphelios, and it also does relatively well into the Nami in terms of 2v2 matchup, especially when you do take the Glacial. But we already see all the counters for the top lane getting banned out as Renekton does get taken off the board, just in case Bin. I think it really depends on his matchup. Once he is in a winning matchup, he is very comfortable and very happy to carry, even in team fights. So I'm really excited to see how the later stage game goes. Nautilus does get taken off, so it does look like a Thresh pick for the side of BLG, and that just also allows the Aphelios to have so much more mobility up against someone that is Lucian, lacking that range as well.
We haven't seen any priority whatsoever coming in from either side for that, what we know as the mid lane, and this is feeling like a little bit of a moment here for Dream, because we were actually talking about it a little bit before we went live. The Dream has only really won on Ryze, and Ryze isn't exactly the greatest thing to be blinding right now, especially when things like Sylas exist, where he can just get dominated in those laning phases, really not have that big of an impact. So curious to see what NIP want to go for. The K'Sante would be a good nullifying, or the Sion, which I know you are a big fan of in terms of the big tank matchups. the fridges up on the top lane, you would prefer the Sion, and that's going to be locked in against the Jax. So good nullifying factor in that solo lane. Now they've got to kind of blind in now towards Yagao. And I wouldn't mind seeing the Akali. I think it actually is a really good setup there to kind of cover their options if they can catch out this Aphelios. But now you got to make sure you're not just going to have a terrible laning phase and, potentially be irrelevant for the entirety of the first 20 minutes.
Dream was really forced to make up for the AP damage, and he does blind the Akali, which I think is a bit dangerous as you up against someone like Yagao, where the Sylas is definitely going to get locked in here, as you just have so many wonderful ultimates, and it is going to be relatively easy laning up against someone like the Akali. I mean, Ahri is also a very viable option, as you do have a lot of synergy alongside the Vi. And you do have also a lot of skirmishing opportunities with this game as well. But both compositions, NIP going with something very standard, which is going to be front to back, but they are lacking that side lane pressure. If Bin does get his items online on this Jax, I think no one is going to be able to match up against him. But BLG, when it does come to those 5v5s, they are lacking a lot of those, I guess, AoE CCs compared to something like the Sion and Sejuani.
Well, we got the teams locked and loaded. It does feel like BLG kind of got everything they wanted right there. NIP very much going for your very standard front-to-back team fight. Engage with the Sejuani and the Sion. Look to make sure that this Lucian-Nami combination can get to that big one-item spike that we talk about every single damn time we see these two champions. On the other end of this, though, you've got pretty decent scaling, good side lane threat with that Jax, and of course the Aphelios we know can do such extreme amounts of damage if left unchecked. So both teams now very respectfully set up to where they can maybe look to try and, you know, gain their advantages. But for the moment, it does look like Yagao is going to have a pretty easy day against Dream, just making sure he is that mid lane priority. So I'm curious to see where we see Shun and Shadow prioritize in this first few minutes.
Yeah, with Dream coming back in for this series up against BLG, it is going to have so much demand on him blinding something like the Akali, where he is a huge threat for the backline of BLG. Because I think Lucian, in the current meta, he isn't able to solo carry. I think he's much better off as just someone that is acting as a second carry, where you are depending on someone else to also step up in those major objective fights. So Dream, with his debut, and not debut, but return of the Akali, I'm really excited to see how the mid lane matchup goes as you are up against someone like Yagao.
I know we're supposed to look at the cool city skyline of Shenzhen. As oh, there's an early hook. It's onto the tank, and he gets charmed straight away, knocked backwards, and Invincible is dead. Oh, it's a desperate start there, and all it cost was an ignite from the side of BLG.
The first blood goes into the hands of Shun on this Vi. I'm expecting a lot of aggressive plays, as he is just that player who does snowball once he gets the lead. I'm not too sure what NIP was trying to do there. You are lacking a bit of CC as you are up against someone like the Thresh. We're blind walking into him with the Glacial available as well. It's definitely very risky. BLG only burning the Ignite and Ruby Crystal in the hands of Shun, so he is going to have so much more health when it does come to those 1v1s if he decides to take it.
Well, it's going to be an extra Ruby Crystal start here for Shun, as he's going to be pretty damn happy with that particular setup there. And look, yes, Yagao starts with Charm, not ideal in the most situations, but you're not really going to care level 1 against an Akali. Akali's not really a champion, to be perfectly honest, until she gets level 6. So, ooh, Elk. That's a hell of a lot of damage to be taking level 1 against the Lucian Nami combination. So they need to be very, very careful of where they're going forward now, because that's one misstep, and all of a sudden this bot lane can blow the hell open. They're looking for him. The ebb and flow is used.
Oh my lord.
Taking so much
Ignite?
damage. There's not, yeah, I was going to say no Ignite, but also no real health bar to kind of push this. Does have the Calibrum, so is doing decent kind of range damage right now, and is going to try and just push that one open. This bot lane's getting pretty hectic right now.
Very feisty for a level 1 trade, but once On missed that first hook as the initiation, NIP took advantage of this, and they really went for the trade on Elk. Elk is going to hit level 2 and chug those pots, as he is sitting on nothing right now other than a longsword, so no more bad trades, or BLG bot lane looking a little bit vulnerable in those ganks. But yeah, Thresh needs to play very carefully here, because your CC in that level 1 was the Q, not having it be available, so you can't guarantee the Glacial. Hooking a minion.
Good guy minion. Good guy minion. It was literally on his feet. That's why he didn't see him there. As we can now see Sean maybe going to run into Shadow here, and doesn't want anything to do with this, and realizes right now that yes, I have an extra Ruby Crystal, but I do not have priority of my bot laners. And this bot lane definitely not going as well as BLG may have hoped. Yes, they got the first blood onto their own jungler, but Shadow is now being very aggressive, moving down towards this blue buff, maybe seeing if he can get a bit of a sneaky steal, but it looks like On is already potentially covering it. Yagao in this mid lane should be able to just pop the W and walk away with level 4, and actually might have to flash himself and just make sure he does not die.
Yagao's wave was slightly more towards NIP side, so he unfortunately had to burn the flash. But like you've been saying, this bottom lane for BLG, as long as they live in the early stages of the game, I think the Aphelios is going to be more than happy to scale with those items, especially once you do get the lifesteal on board. Something like the Akali just isn't going to pop you, especially with someone like Thresh acting as that extra peel as well. So my main focus is really going to be about if Bin can get this top lane lead and get it snowballing, because I think once the Jax gets a significant amount of gold lead in terms of items, the Sion just isn't able to match up against him ever, and then he needs to look for those 5v5 skirmishes.
Well, nothing else to be really happening right now. The Sejuani did get the flash in mid, so it would love to see Shadow go back towards that mid lane. And Shadow's been an interesting kind of case study as well. Of course, was with the Mad Lions back in 2020, went to the World Championship with them, where unfortunately they did kind of have a little bit of a bad time in all things considered in that tournament. But then found his home on LGD, not really getting the most of successes there either. Last year was a pretty dire season. I believe they were bottom 3 of the table, but Now we're coming here onto NIP, and NIP have shown glimpses of being a team that can maybe go against some of the bigger teams. They've taken some big scalps, but definitely lacking in terms of the big wins. And like I said, they're already on 8 losses, so the best they can do is go 50-50. They can't get a winning ratio, but they can definitely go even, and that's kind of where Shadow needs to be coming in and making sure that from now on they're just picking up dub after dub after dub. And now Invincible, he might not be picking up a dub. Flash for flash as he gets caught out. He doesn't have ultimate, and he is being taken out once more. One more auto attack will do it. He goes into zombie form and will have nothing to do with it. So good regank in this top side. Does cost both top laners their flashes, but Shun being the more proactive of the two junglers.
But exactly what I want to see, Oisin, getting Bin ahead on this Jax, which was a blind, and Invincible opted into the Sion matchup. So hopefully he was hoping for a relatively calm state, but Shun noticed this. And there's going to be an engage from Dream in this middle lane, gonna ult away from Yagao, and he should be fine. Very low in mana, however, so he does have to just come back to lane with barely any wave clear.
I was going to say, I actually really liked that Yagao showing his veterancy right there. Kind of didn't panic, knew that the level 6 had been hit by Dream. Dream flashes in, looks for the perfect execution, but Yagao doesn't panic, immediately goes, right, I just need to get level 6. I need like 1 or 2 minions, nothing too crazy. And he does get it, so it's a really nice kind of setup. And speaking of nice setups, Bin is kind of wailing on him.
With it.
Yeah, he's wailing on him right now, just absolutely putting in work. And this is the problem when you get something. Oh, I'm gonna stop myself here as we are gonna see the hook come out. That's gonna be the heal and the flash. Oh, losing both his summoners. Shadow is in this bot side, but is gonna be spotted out straight away. So they know that the jungler is here, and this is the thing. NIP's jungler just hasn't had any real opportunities to make anything happen outside that mid lane gank because he's been spotted every step of the way.
He's been getting read like a book, but Bin having that kill advantage in this lane and also a little bit up in CS. Also the wave in a terrible state as it is slow pushing towards BLG. I mean, Invincible, he needs some help in this top lane, but like he said, Shadow having a bit of a tough time in this early game as he is getting read by Shun and pretty much getting countered or at least diffused for every single gank. I don't think he's going to be able to steal this. There is no vision on it.
They have it now. He's looking for it. He gets it! Stolen away, and oh, that feels bad for BLG, but great for Shadow, keeping NIP in step. The game was kind of running away from them, but that dragon does do a hell of a lot of stalling.
How does Shadow just walk in and steal? I mean, to be fair, they did not spot Shadow planting over, so great things for NIP as they do have that first dragon in their pockets as Photic is pushing in this way. BLG spots this, and Photic is so overpushed right now with no backup.
Yeah, he's probably dead. He does have flash, he does have cleanse, but he's not going to use either of them because he knows there was no reason for him to be there. He gets killed off there. 0-3 in kills in favor of BLG, and I mean, this has kind of been the story of NIP. Little small moments there. Photic, a great AD carry in his own right, but just not really needing to kind of push that far ahead.
Yeah, NIP knew that the entirety of BLG was surrounding that dragon pit, and they still walked up a little bit. So I'm not too sure what Photic was thinking. Definitely should have been more aware in terms of the map state. We do get a replay of what I mean, this is just Photic going in a little bit too greedy. He wanted the play as well or something. He did get the wave in, however, so maybe it's not the worst news, but Elf gets that kill, and 3-0 now for the side of BLG as it comes back to top lane. 30 CS up where he only has that Sheen advantage, but really see how much work it is putting in and how much it's affecting the lane state.
Yeah, and this is the thing is that, you know, we know Bin to do. Bin is one of, and it still is one of the best, you know, kind of top laner talents we've had in the LPL for a while. Definitely someone you need to be very, very, you know, afraid of. MSI champion, of course, with RNG, and this is a team that can do very well. You look at the pieces they've put together. Shun, one of the better pieces of IG from last year. Yagao, obviously, coming out of JDG. And this is a roster that can build very well, but it just feels like this split in particular, they've been very hit or miss with the way their kind of games have gone. So really good to see that they can kind of still pull out the kind of dominant kind of laning phases and prowess they need to do. And I just need to see a little bit more from them. Yeah, they're doing great so far. Definitely positives all around the board, but need to keep their foot on the gas. Need to keep putting pressure here on NIP.
Dream is walking into a bit of a sticky situation. Gonna get half his health chunked out Xun and Yagao just having so much control over this bottom side jungle right now. I think I just see a bit of disconnect from Shadow and Dream already, where they aren't working together as a duo. We see Shadow often alone, and that's really affecting how he's able to play the map. Although having the Herald available in his pockets, I do want to see this being used for the Lucian, as if Lucian doesn't have that item's advantage up against someone like the Aphelios having that BT going first item, then it's going to be really tough for any of the carries to shut down this Aphelios in any of the team fights.
Speaking of the Aphelios, I'm noticing he's got a BF sword and a...
Nice
myself there for a second. They're going to get the hook down. There's going to be the ultimate again. That's going to be on picking up that kill. Elk gets himself the lantern. And Zhuo is just dead. Now Sion in this bot side looking to kind of maybe fully dive here onto Photic, who does have cleanse and flash. Good flash there by On, but now you've no Glacial Prison to really turn this one around here. However, the wave is being pushed back. The health bar is not the healthiest. And Yagao and Sion, this is the combination we want to see for your mid jungle. We want to see these kind of, two working almost in tandem, almost like a bot duo. As Dream might be having a bit of a nightmare. Ooh, he just about dodges everything and keeps himself alive within his own shroud.
I'm loving the proactiveness from BLG Xun and Yagao just consistently hovering the bottom side as Shadow only just reconnects with his mid lane duo. But yeah, once again in this bottom lane matchup, once Thresh lands the hook onto Nami, he doesn't have flash from the early brawl. Well, it's just going to be a death every single time. And that's just what makes this matchup so hard, as you are blinding something like the Lucian and Nami when Thresh is available. You take off the Lulu. I think I would have preferred Lulu, but I guess if Dream wanted to blind Akali in this instance, the Lulu was more prioritized over than Thresh. But it does affect the bot lane 2v2 potential, and Zhuo is even Photic 0 and 2, so it's going to be kind of tough. So you have to play or position perfectly at least.
Shirley gets to get her head bopped down. I have confirmed her name is Shirley, so I can say that with absolute
It's
confidence.
Shelly!
It's Shirley.
She has a shell!
Yeah, but it's surely not. That's just how it is. You got to think of the big meta moments. You got to think of all these different ways of, okay, why do things have a name? Why does, the shopkeeper have a name, Got to build into the lore of the League of Legends community.
My favorite League of Legends champion, Boris the Shopkeeper.
You know who it is, even though he doesn't have an official name. He does have I think it is actually his official name now. I'm not quite sure. All I know is that LS called him Boris ages ago, and that just became his name. But second dragon of the game now going to be going over to the side of BLG. This time around, there is no Shadow to steal. No assassin smites to come out. I will say, Shun did not have smites, so that would have been a pretty easy kind of setup right there. But we will see now NIP kind of coming into this mid-game at 13 minutes, about 2,000 gold behind, and Elk and On are kind of scaling into monsters right now. Photic and Zhuo have gone from owning this lane to really struggling to where it is. Here we go. That's going to be a smite in, and Shadow getting fully engaged in Pawn. He gets flashed away. One more auto attack, and that's going to be enough damage to put him into the ground. And already we're seeing NIP crushing under the pressure of BLG as they go forward again. They're going to force the flash and the cleanse. Whoa, a max range charm, but that's not going to be enough to catch out the kill. And again, we're seeing more advantages going over to BLG. NIP, they're struggling right now, Kitty.
It's a sad day to be the side of NIP, as your bottom lane is just suffering from the amount of pressure that Xun is able to apply on this Vi pick. But I think ultimately it's just because Yagao is able to obtain that lane priority when it is up against Dream on this Akali, and that just allows for so many gank opportunities. We've already seen this is like the 4th time that BLG has roamed towards his bottom lane. The white shurikens taking down all these tower plates just means he's going to get his mythic so early on, and that's just Immortal Shieldbow for you in these team fights. And I don't know if Dream and Photic are able to deal with that when we do hit the later stage.
That is a lot of gold going over to Elk right there. You can even see Dream and Shadow. You got to do something. That is a 6,000 gold Elk right now coming into this one here. So now we see a 3v1 in this top side. Ben, how good are your hands? That's the question right now. Can you 1v3? He does have the ultimate. He's putting work down on the Invincible. He flashes, he dashes, and there's the perfect execution going down onto him. They haven't taken him down just yet. He does pop the W, gets the counter strike down, gets the lead strike off, the flash, but has he done enough to keep himself alive? Maybe get a trade back kill? No, it's only Shun. And in a 4v1 situation, there's nothing he can do. And that is going to be NIP getting themselves a kill, but it cost them a lot to try and secure that.
I genuinely choked. I thought Bin was out, but the final Akali Q finishes him off as so many ultimates, like you said, being burnt towards his top side where they are forced to back. BLG only a few seconds too late to the play. Unfortunately, Shun wasn't able to get his hands to help there, but Photic dead once again. Not having the flash available and being alone under tier 1 tower just means Elk taking another major tower down. This Aphelios is having the time of his life, Oisin.
It's just such an impossible situation to really find yourself in, especially against this Aphelios, who is just honestly free hitting. And I gotta give massive props to Sion. Rushes the Black Cleaver, knows he can be aggressive with that 3-0-2 start, and just making his presence felt across the map, knowing that he needs to be the big engage tool for his team. Because if you look across the map, it is kind of single target pick opportunities. It's looking to try and catch someone out isolated with a hook, with a a cease and desist, and then catch them out with the constant single target CC. So they're just extending this laning phase away from NIP, who don't want to be here. They want a team fight.
They don't want a team fight. With the Sion in particular, I mean, you're just not going to be able to match up against someone like the Jax that is 40 CS up. But do you really think that first blood going to the hands of Shun with that Ruby Crystal coming on early is the reason for this early game? Well, I don't really think so. I think it's just purely because Shadow wasn't as proactive. We did see him burning that flash out of Yagao, but we never saw a regank. And then ever since Ahri hit level 6, well, you don't have the opportunity to really keep up with her mobility anymore. And it's just NIP being extremely hesitant, especially in the mid jungle door, to make plays around the map, where on the opposite side, BLG showing up with a really good synergy for today, especially with Yagao and Shun, where I think it's just the result of the game state right now.
Speaking of the game state, 5,500 gold in favor of BLG. Dragon in a minute is only a Chem Soul, but a Chem Rift makes for some very curious interactions on the map. Of course, the added blast cones, you've got the extra healing and the shielding from the honey fruits, and even vision control, to be perfectly honest, of the Scryer's Bloom, giving you so much more control. As you can see there, it takes away 2 hits off of those wards once you hit it as well. So really curious to see what we can see happen here. And NIP, you've got an opportunity here. If you can get this dragon, this really puts this game on ice for another few minutes. This gives you a lot of time to build up some items onto your Lucian to get that Imperial Mandate. Because this is the thing. Normally at this point, you're looking at the Lucian Nami going perfect. Gale Force with the Serrated Dirk, you're doing great, but you don't have the Imperial Mandate right now. So you're not feeling super confident. And with a TP available for Yagao on that top side, he knows no one can test him right now. Invincible has to deal with bot side, and no one's going to be able to stop this push into the tower.
Yeah, the side lanes of BLG just getting that tier 1 top tower as well. You need to force something as they only have 3 people in this mid lane. Ulti onto On.
It's only onto On, who flashes away before the tidal wave can hit. There's 2 big, massive teamfight ultimates no longer available to you. And Yagao is still playing PvE. He's still happy as Larry to just take away these towers, and no one is going to be able to stop him right now. Dream will finally look to answer, but yeah, I mean, the only reason he's answering is because NIP know they can't fight.
Yeah, this second dragon is just going to go into the hands of BLG, as I just think there's too much side lane pressure from this BLG composition, as we already see been consistently pushing in Invincible in this bottom lane, where we didn't even see a silent. Have we seen a single Sion ulti to force a team fight from the side of NIP? I don't think so. Just quite an 18-minute already, as Yagao has been just CSing in that top side, getting his items even further online. But we need to just talk about how NIP, this Akali and Lucian, you aren't going to scale as well up against something like the Aphelios and Ahri, so you really need to force these mid-game skirmishes or you're out of time.
I mean, it just feels desperate right now for NIP. It doesn't feel like they're coming in as a cohesive unit. And look, I'm not going to give them, a lot of shtick for it, because you are bringing in a new jungler, you are trying to get rid, into a new system. But I'm going to stop myself. Already a cleanse has to be used there, as Photic saw a single target CC coming straight for his face. A death sentence should he have not cleansed away, but it is just BLG coming further and further ahead. 2 items now onto the Aphelios. He is happy as Larry's scaling into this mid to late game, knowing that even if a team fight breaks out, he is going to be monstrous to be able to deal with whatever's thrown at him. And again, we're just seeing more and more pressure being put out now. Shirley gets to drop down. She'll get to be her favorite thing of the game. Yeah, you know what? We can fight about this to the end. Like a bitter old couple that's just miserable about it, fighting for the sake of it. But we're gonna see more and more pressure. They're getting the mid lane tier 2. It just opens up so much of the map.
Mid tower is already down at the 19-minute mark, where Elk has decided to opt into the Gale Force for his mythic of providing just so much more mobility. And the entirety of BLG for this composition, just so much mobility, as NIP really needs to land those Sejuani ultimates as that engage. Invincible, he is on something like the Sion, which has excellent follow-up, but when you are up against a team composition that is so slippery, it's going to be really hard to get his Q onto these major carries as well.
Come in now, Shadow. Oh, this is not the NIP debut he wanted. He misses there, and now already been on the backside looking for a counter-strike. Everybody flashes away. Invincible is your tank, and even he is being left to be slaughtered right now. No way he can survive more than a couple of seconds. BLG still pushing forward, hunting, and at 20 minutes, 30 seconds, they've got the Baron in their sights.
They're starting the Baron as Aphelios has a blue and purple guns. This is when you know the game is pretty much over. I don't want to be a negative Nancy, but this game state is just so devastating for the side of NIP. We put them on that ticking time bomb. They have these mid-game skirmishing champions that excel at team fighting, but Shadow engaging everything, missing the Sejuani ultimate and the TPs out of BLG double, and just cutting off all escape routes for NIP. And these carries just get to do whatever they want, and they just don't have the damage to kill anyone.
No, and the funny thing is that yes, they all survive except for Invincible, but every single flash was burned. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all on the exact same cooldown, because they all had to get away from what was effectively going to be a 5-man counter-strike in the middle of that mid lane. So 9,000 gold is the lead. Everybody on NIP is just kind of scratching their heads, wondering what went wrong. And apart from literally a dragon and a kill, a dragon which they stole and a kill they overforced, they've just not been in this game whatsoever. But great from BLG. Look, we questioned a lot of what we wanted to see from these guys. We didn't know at 6 and 5, are they a good team? You know, would they be kind of maybe a chance of maybe making a little bit of a run in the playoffs? This is the kind of performance we needed to see. A dominating game 1, and I want to see it again in game number 2, as long as they can take this victory in the current state that they're in.
Yeah, hopefully they can clean it out with this first game going into their hands, but BLG getting that stun onto On, a little follow-up for this, the support Thresh.
I mean, the Thresh, they're throwing everything at the wrong target right now, and Vin's not even here. Invincible. More like invisible right now, because he's been looking at the gray screen the entire time, just basically ignoring him, and now Bin pushing in that bot side, making sure that that wave is prepped and ready for the rest of his team. We're looking at a pretty damn quick game, but without any real engage, Shadow doesn't have his ultimate, doesn't really have a way of getting to these fights. You just can't make anything happen.
Yeah, your beefy top laner has died 4 times in this game, and they are looking to end the game by the 23-minute mark. All the ultimates used for this support Thresh, where he just killed himself and he walked away, not even burning anything. I mean, the guns on Elk as well, perfect to just create that space between the Lucian. It's going to be so tough. He does stop the Thresh Lantern, but they just don't have any follow-up damage to do anything about it.
No, they really don't. And not going to be the end of the game just yet. There is a dragon available if BLG so choose to take it. There is another hook. Oh my god! Someone check his color settings, because he's only seeing gray right now. Invincible 0 and 5. Not invincible, very invincible, as he is going to be taking another beating. And again, still no way of engaging on this. BLG might look to try and end the game right here, right now. They again engage on the Thresh. I get it. You don't like the Warden. You don't like the Thresher, but he's not your priority right now. An Elf flashing forward. He wants the end of the game, and he is going to get it. Him and BLG just rifling forward, knowing how strong they are. They're going to wait for the super minions to come in, but there's just nothing you can do here. Shadow on his new team, looking around as everyone is alone and afraid. Nowhere for them to really go. And in 24 minutes, this game is done and in dominating fashion.
Elk is just having the time of his life on this Aphelios as that blind pick, then that's the reason why Aphelios has been finding so much success in these games in the LPL. He is just such a good laner and he's an amazing team fighter, but with how the early game went, I was not surprised at all that BLG finished the game by the 24-minute mark. And of course, Shadow is staring at his nexus exploding. Definitely not the most ideal debut back into the LPL for 2023. So hopefully, when we go back to the drafting boards, Game 2 is going to look a lot more different.
I mean, you know, a lot of the issues that we talked about, you mentioned as well, like the synergy between Dream and Shadow just wasn't there. There wasn't really any kind of cohesion or cohesive kind of setup to make sure that they were getting stuff going. And honestly, once Invincible kind of lost that kill on the bot side, it felt like NIP were just very afraid. They were very scared to look to try and make any kind of plays happen. We got one flash mid after a very good gank from Shadow, and then nothing else really happened from there. You know, you need to be hitting that again. And yes, it does feel bad. You might fall behind and farm, but catch-up XP is broken anyway, so why not go for it? You know, you gotta try something. You play out standard, and things like this happen. And we saw that, especially going into that second phase with the Jacks already picked here for BLG and all the bans going on the top side. Invincible was left with a tank, and you do not want to be a tank into a Jacks matchup. That's all. It's just a bad time.
It is a very bad time. I'm very surprised that Invincible opted into the blind Jax pick with something like the Sion, which is not hard winning at all. I mean, you just get outscaled and laning phase goes fairly even as he doesn't have his items online just quite yet. I was expecting something like the Gwen or even Kennen. We've seen him play it, so definitely just play for the team fights, and let Photic and Dream carry. But look at the damage charts between the mid jungle. Just such a big difference. This Akali,
Dream
definitely
did nothing.
He did absolutely nothing. He was just farming mid lane, and it was really tough for Shadow to play the game because Shun and Yagao were just best buddies roaming towards the bottom side of the map, getting those tower plates onto Elk, and he became an absolute monster in these team fights.
And look, I feel bad for Dream right now because he came in, obviously, in 2022. He was a sub for NIP, which was V5 at the time. Underneath Rookie. Rookie didn't play before Chinese New Year. We saw him a bit of time on his Lissandras and stuff, and he looked great. He looked like a decent player. It was like, okay, you know, you've got Rookie, but you also got a guy coming up the ranks. This is a pretty good, you know, kind of setup to be in. This split, Dream has just been, I don't want to say exposed, but it really does feel like right now Dream is just having a horrible time and really not coming together at all with this NIP roster. But we'll wait and see if they can turn it around in game number 2.